won't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. And if that mockingbird won't sing, Mama's gonna buy you a diamond ring.
Hey guys, welcome back to a continuation of
I quit the police force 8 years ago, but I still remember this. Part 3. Enjoy.
I managed to dig a few things out of my storage locker. I was meant to give these back to Marshall along with some other evidence once it was released, but, well, I'll get to that. I had a few questions. Mainly, where am I and what did they do to Daff? I'm in the UK, just outside of London. As for Daff, what didn't they do? They cut off one leg, the opposite arm, and a few fingers for good measure. The tattoo artist put rings on the stumps, like what you'd get on a tree. Apparently they added one for every birthday she spent there. On her leg and arm, he added wooden prosthetics which attached straight to the bone. He pointed her ears and put metal under skin grafts to put tiny branches coming out of the tips. Her shoulders and remaining arm got the same treatment. Then he lasered her head to stop hair from growing and added 126 dermal anchors with branches like a weeping willow down her back. Daff was strong. She didn't give in to the mirror room or the requests made of her. That's why he injected each major joint, her hips, her knee, her shoulders, with something to slow her down. Imagine a tree uprooting and walking. That's how slowly and painfully she moved. Mr. Somerton died not too long after the arrest. I don't know whether it was an accident or on purpose, or even who was behind it if it was the latter. But he got the wrong blood type when they tried to replace what he lost. A hemolytic reaction, I think they said. In pain and handcuffed to a bed, alone. Call me a sadist if you want, but it wasn't enough. Not by a long shot. The diary, though, that's what changed it for me. At first I was relieved at his death. At least he wouldn't get away with it or do it ever again. At least the kid wouldn't have to live with all that around him. But reading the diary changed that, for Stevens as well as for me, and a few of the others. There are no dates, just entries. I'll number them so you can at least see where one ends and the next starts. These are only a handful. We had the whole thing, but these are the ones that told us what really happened there.
Entry 1.
I killed the Fates today. I wonder if that's a sense of foreboding I feel. When I read Metamorphoses at university, did I ever think I could say that without being insane? Maybe living in this insanity. Perhaps the fact that I can get up every single day means I'm just like him, just more passive. I've been crowned the queen of his kingdom. I wore it for a day and let it slip into a drawer that night, tucked against forgotten things like negligees I used to wear and innocence I presume. That has no place in this house. That day, the queen also injected the Fates with a fatal amount of morphine. I will always help when they ask. Each one asked me, of course, at some point during the modifications, but some of them can live with it. Myrrh is my golden girl. Her beautiful voice lifts me even if I can't ever look down at her tail. She's everybody's golden girl now that I think about it. M forces her to wear those terrible things in her eyes to hide her spirit, I think. M was displeased. He found the Fates together and insisted I help Cyclops with the bodies. His anger is almost irrelevant now. What can he really do to me? If he ever used that damn scalpel on me, there would be an uprising. I'm sure of it. My subjects would not allow it. I am mother to them too. In a way, I delivered them, fed them.
Entry 2.
Narcissus died today by his own hand. 4 in 1 month. The first time we've had so many. I told M that forcing the poor boy to look at his own reflection every day meant this was inevitable. This was not the room of mirrors. It would be a lifetime of it. He was beautiful, like something from Oscar Wilde. A boy made of ivory and gold, but the curves of his lips failed to rewrite history. I presume that's why M chose him, the perfect subject. Maybe we can plant flowers where he lay and let the legend live on that way. I wish we could plant flowers for all of them.
Entry 3.
The dinner party was an unmitigated success. The entire BOD came. M said I was emotionally absent, as always. But I cannot block out what is happening beneath our feet the way he does. All of them back in those terrible cells, even Fawn. I know he prefers the outdoors now. I am a ridiculous woman. Every time I order pizza and giving them DVDs like they're girls at a sleepover, and my offerings make it all okay. The confinement, the memories of what happened to them, every reflection. He said if the dividends are within his expectations, he'll buy that chalet I loved when we first met, back before all this started. He would insist on bringing a creature with him this time and sully it. I wish I had one moment, one pure thing that was unsullied. He insists on touching every place in me and turning it into a fairy tale I never wanted.
Entry 4.
The Queen banished a man today, a lecherous pustle of a man. M has been bragging again, or maybe another teacher has been speaking about his work. Nonetheless, this revolting carbuncle came to our house, stepped foot in my house, breathed my air. He brought with him 4 cases, followed by a man whose knuckles can't have possibly dragged on the ground. But that's the only way I can remember him. I'm positive his forehead didn't slant quite as much as I remember either. Every horror I have seen has been eclipsed. He opened those cases and inside were girls. Girls just like Myrrh and Harpy, like the Fates and poor little Daphne, without legs or arms or teeth, with blank looks and scars on scars on scars where he mistreated them. He wanted a partnership with M to continue, to sell those poor girls to people who would treat them as less than objects. Whether I'm proud or horrified, I'm unsure. I released one poor girl immediately, stabbed her through the sternum into what I hoped was the heart. The cretin smiled before I sent him on his way. Cyclops slowly walked him out. Uni was practically growling. After he was gone, I wonder if that was a nod of approval or disgust from Uni. I find myself wanting his approval. We all have our part to play here. He is both my judge and their guardian, never afraid to scrape a scab clean off or make a wound from a scratch. But how M loved the idea. He was practically salivating at the thought. As he grows older, I fear for our creatures and kingdom. His tastes are changing from the boyish desires into something I cannot allow. Sometimes I am amazed I still have a limit, but it is there. I told the M's if they did that to a single soul, I would neuter them like feral cats. They laughed for a moment, but after so long, do I not know how to do these things? Do I not have the stomach? I have been an unwilling pupil to their designs for over a decade. They understand, I think, but I will not live forever. This is the first time I've thought of the next stage for my creatures, when I and M are both gone.
Entry 5.
Uni's birthday passed today, 27 years old, a beautiful boy. M mocks me each time, but I bought him some new knee pads, some things he had requested, a replacement cyanide capsule. Perhaps rather than a queen, I should be an angel of death. I would embrace it myself, but who would they have then? The M's would unleash hell, or rather, fill it to the brim. Cyclops helped to bring Myrrh up to his room, and we had a small celebration after dinner. I am ashamed that they comfort me when I weep. I am ashamed that their eyes stay dry.
Entry 6.
This week I have been drunk. Everybody has noticed, even commented. Griff mumbled his concerns when I lay in the garden. I have been thinking back to the first ones. What could I have done then? Handed him back? Divorced? Fled? When he glued that little girl's legs together. Children have done that before. Unusual, yes, but rarely a sign of things to come. The line should have been the first death. I think that's when I failed the most. A crude attempt at the first Cyclops, pushing too far with his dinner fork. M did what he could to revive him, but we should not have hidden it. We should have gone to the authorities, the adoption agency, the therapist, anybody. I truly do not know whether M enjoys it, is numb to it, or has always wanted to try his hand. One would say that a child cannot manipulate the way he did without some sort of a wish to follow, but M is the man, the one that does it. Maybe he does it for his own place in history, alongside his terrible prodigy. There is talk of sending M to the medical school after he finishes his degree. An artist and a scientist. What a polymath. But what does that make me? I have rarely intervened. When I do, it is to kill, and kill so many that I did not even count. I had a list once in the back page here. I tore it out and burned it when it filled a page. Her basement is never empty. I never go a day without changing bandages. Myrrh wants to tell me something, but is afraid. The poor flower has tried. I must make time to sit with her.
Entry 7.
The only thing needed for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. The only thing needed for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. The only thing needed for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. The only thing needed for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. The only thing needed for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. M is chasing Deuce with a mirror today and laughing when she cries. He asks her why she hasn't turned to stone. Perhaps it's because I have instead.
Entry 8.
I now acknowledge that the authorities will read this. I acknowledge my part in this. I acknowledge that I have failed as a mother, a wife, and a guardian to so many poor boys and girls who have been at my home. But I will not fail any longer. I now know what it is that Myrrh wanted to tell me. I saw her on a lounge with Uni, both crying and shrinking away when I walked in. The M's were out on an expedition, finding a new creature, when she told me. In truth, I think I could have guessed if I were not denying it so strongly. M has been hurting her, touching her. This morning he defiled her. My poor golden girl, this cannot continue. All of the creatures are concerned. They know that something is happening and they are afraid. I am honored that they are afraid for me as well as for themselves. Please, whoever reads this, do not fail them the way that I have. Keep them safe. I will call the police. I will tell them that I raised a rapist and let this sorry mess unwind the way it will. Perhaps my strand has been cut, and so has theirs. I tried, Stevens pushed the CPS to act and arrest Marshall. She clearly said that he raped Myrrh. I think he started this whole thing. The problem is that Mr. Somerton's name is Mark. Mark could be capital M or lowercase m. She made it so clear but so freaking ambiguous. He's an adopted kid who grew up surrounded by mutilated victims. Even if we prosecuted on this woman's ramblings, he'd get off. They didn't even bother. They never bothered. I know it was him from the start. She says it was, but there's something else. His adoption records, where he came from, his art, his freaking hollow eyes. I still can't find his records, but I'll look again in a few days. Not that it makes any difference, not that it undoes anything, but you'll understand more. About the beginning and the end, and why I don't deserve to sleep. None of us do. Hey guys, Manic here. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the video, leave me a like, share it with your friends, comment, and let me know what you thought about it. And remember, subscribe so you will have access to all my future content when it comes out. Until next time, remember,
be good to each other.